What it do, YouTube? It's your boy Tony and Nation. I'm back with another video. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm just gonna keep dropping these videos to hopefully educate and teach y'all things that I didn't know or things I wish I knew earlier on that I just didn't. And I'm hoping that I will pass this on to the next generation. This is actually like a sub of my podcast. It's like a quick take type of thing, you know, that I'm gonna be sharing. And today, let's just get into it. I'm just going to be talking about how to build your credit. And most of the things I'm going to be talking about today are pretty much stuff that I did. Most of them are very personal. So I'm sure there are other ways you can do it. But most of the things that I'm going to be talking about are things that you can actually do. And they work. And there's stuff that I had to figure out on my own, or I was helped with, or I, somehow. But I'm able to share those because I have experience in how I did that. And I hope that you can take the same thing. And so how to build your credit. First of all, I know there are people who talk about like you shouldn't do things with credit. You shouldn't. You should just use money you have or save up save up money to do whatever you want to do. Avoid credit and all that. That's all cool, right? These are my own thoughts, right? Like I believe that actually America is ran on credit, right? So, and I'll give you a quick example of what I mean by this on my part. Again, I'm making everything personal so that you can hopefully relate with it. So I'm a photographer and videographer, and the first time I got my first camera that I owned, that is mine, that I called mine, I actually got that camera on credit. And it was not my credit because you have to have like a job, to get credit, or you can get a secure credit card, which I'll talk about in a second. This is just I'm just giving like a little rundown before I get into it. So I had my friend who had a PayPal account buy that camera for me. The camera was it was $3,000 actually. It was $2,000 for the body and $1,000 for the lens. At this time, I wasn't really getting any work. I was getting into I started out doing more videos, so I was just getting into the field. But I was I just didn't have money or finances or just a way to be able to own my own equipment. So I just took a chance. I took a risk on myself. By the way, next week's video is about risk, so watch that. But I took a risk on myself, and I asked my friend to give me the camera with his credit. And with PayPal, they have 6 months with no interest. So I was like, that's kind of cool because I have 6 months to pay it off. You do have to make a minimum payment every month. But I told my friend I would pay him back in 6 months. And I took that camera that I bought, and then I went and did a bunch of video work, and I was able to make money. And within 3 months, I paid them back. You know what I'm saying? And now I had an asset, because then at first it was like kind of like a liability because I, bought it off of credit and whatnot. But it became an asset when I paid it off. And now every money that I was making was more like profit, right? So that's just an idea of what you can do. Or if you want to do like a startup business, or you want to do something and you don't have the funds, you can always do that. But you may not have friends that have that type of money or have that trust you enough to do that for you. So these are some steps that I'm going to share with you what you can do. Number one, and they're not in any specific order, like I always say. Start off with a secure credit card. Now, what is a secure credit card? A secure credit card is basically, and I'll use my own examples again. Just go to so for me, I went to Bank of America. You can go to any bank. You can go to Wells Fargo. You can go to a credit union. You can go to anywhere. I went to Bank of America because that is who I was banking with, and I went with my friend. Again, I was getting no money at this time. So my friend put down $300 for me to get a secure credit card. And basically what that means is the bank now takes that $300 and takes it as if it's theirs. So they let me use that money, but as a credit. You know what I'm saying? Like a credit card. So they gave me a secured credit card, which I can use, and I can use up to $300. And what they wanted to see, what they always want to see is like you can be able to pay that money back and how you use it too, for them to see that, oh, this guy is credit worthy. Like, you know what I mean? We can give him credit because he's always paying on time. Now, what I did with that 300 credit card, I started buying things that like gas. I started, whenever I needed to spend money on like clothes or some shoes or something like that, I would just charge that card. And then the one thing I always did from very early on, I did this since I think it was like 2016, it's 2023. I think for like a cool minute, I was only using money that I can afford to pay. And I would always pay on time. That's one thing I did. I never wanted to have any balances and whatnot. So I would never spend money that I did not have. So a good way to do is a secure credit card. You don't have to start with 300. You can do 1,000. You can do 200. You can do, I don't know what's the minimum you can do, but that's just to put it out there. You can do 1,000. You can do 2,000, 3,000. For me, as soon as I got the 300, I had that secure credit card. It was supposed to be for a year, but I had it after 8 months. They went ahead and sent me my money back because remember, it's my money. They sent that to my bank. You think I gave it to my friend? No, I ate that. Anyway, I got that back, and then the other thing I did was they gave me 1,800 now of their money to start using it as a credit card. So now I was building my credit, and back then I didn't really have a job. Like I said, that's why I ended up getting a secure credit card. But I always had an idea about buying a house, and I knew that I needed credit. That's the only thing I knew, right? So let's just get into the next point. You can also have a parent have you as an authorized user on their credit cards, and that will also help you build your credit. And you can do this, I think, even under 18, if I'm not wrong. Just check, but you should be able to do this if you're under 18, and your parents can like allow you to use it. And you could probably use it on like shoes. I don't know what young people buy, shirts, gas, anything that you have to pay for your car to get fixed or whatever. Just use your credit card. That's a good way to build your credit. And especially if your parents are kind enough and like pay for your stuff, like you'd use it, but then they would just pay it. So that's a good way to just be added as an authorized user. You can also be added on somebody that's not your family. It's just kind of like a cosigner. So that's another way of doing that. I think I talked about this a little bit with what I used to do, but use your credit card as like a debit card, right? With a debit card, you don't use your debit card if you don't have money in it. If you have $50, you're only gonna use $50. If you have $100, you can the max you can use $100, right? So that's the same thing you should do with your credit card. Don't go and get a credit card and then go to Maui. You feel me? Don't be in Jamaica living it up with Wells Fargo's money and you don't know how you're gonna pay it back. It's not gonna work out. You feel me? Just use money that you can pay. And I think something I also want to address here is that say you have a credit card worth $5,000. Don't use more than 30%. That actually makes a big difference on your credit score. It dings it. Like anything above 30% will drop your it will drop your credit score. And by 30%, I mean in the month. So every month, just make sure you pay off. If you can pay off your credit card, kudos to you. If not, it's all good. Just don't have a higher than 30% credit limit usage that you have on your cards, right? Because it's one of the few things that actually affects your credit card. And if you have like say $1,000 on your credit card, just make sure you spend less than 300. Or if you're gonna pay it off, if you spend a whole 1,000, make sure you pay at least 700 or all of it. All of it is better, right? Let's get to the next one. So yeah, avoid balances if you can. I think I mentioned that multiple times. Another way you can also build your credit is that you should, all right, this is my recommendation. You should always have one or two credit cards, because say if you have 1,000 on one card and you have 1,000 on another card, that means you have $2,000 that you can use. Now, if you use 30% of 2,000, that's $600, right? So you have more that you can use rather than having one credit card that the most you can use is $300, right? So if you have two, you can use $600. If you have one, you can use $300 because that's your 30%. And then another thing is, other than just doing that, you can also request for higher credit limits. So after don't do that all the time. You have every 6 months, I think you can be able to request, but a few things need to happen before you can request for a higher credit limit. You need to either have a high income. So if you're making 20,000 and then you got approved for $3,000 for credit card, either your income has to go up for them to consider you, or you have to have been paying on time for a very long time, sometimes even a year, for them to think like, oh, okay, now we can give you, I guess, 5,000 or 6,000 or so on. So, but if you get a chance, always upgrade and increase your limit, just so that you'll be able to spend a little bit more and not have it affect your credit score. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, if any of these things don't make any sense, do reach out to me in the comments or message me, and I'll be able to help you with any of these things. These are things I'm sharing that, again, I never knew, or I would just want to share with people that don't have any experience, don't know how to go about it, right? Let's go. So a few more things. Don't close your credit cards. Like, don't close your old account. So if you have, let's say you got your first credit card at like, I don't know, 18, right? And now you know, and it doesn't have any perks. And by perks, I mean like you're not getting any points if you use it at restaurants, if you use it anywhere, because that's what happened to me with my Bank of America. I think when they switched it and gave me an actual credit card, I don't get anything from it. Like it's just to me it's kind of like a useless card. It just, I can get money, I can get like a loan from it or whatever. I can get credit from it and use it somewhere else, but it's not gonna give me any cash back. It's not gonna give me anything. It's just a regular card. But even knowing that, I'm not gonna close that card because your credit score goes higher based on the time limit too. That's another thing that affects your credit score is how long have you had your credit? Like how long did you start building that, right? And if you close out your first one, let's say you got that when you were 18 and now you're like 25, you see you've had credit history. But when you close out your first one, it's going to start from like the next one that you got. And maybe that one you got when you were like 23. So it's only going to show that you've had a credit history for like 2 years, which is not good. Because first of all, it will drop your score when you close the first one, but it's also your credit history is not gonna be enough. It's not gonna be sufficient. It's not gonna allow you to do some certain things. Another way you could also build your credit is not just your credit cards. I'm saying this because it's what I use, but even being added on a car loan, like let's say your parents get you a car, you should ask them to put you on there too so that you're responsible. So that's also gonna start building your credit. That's another way. I think even when you have school loans and you're paying that's also another way. There are many ways to do it. I'm just talking about building your credit through credit cards, right? And I hope that's going to help you out. Another thing I just want to talk about, this is, I guess the last thing, is that you should always check your credit scores. Like you should always check your credit regularly. You should always look into, I have Credit Karma. I have the FICO app from my banks. And I also have Credit Karma. I find Credit Karma to be nice because they have both TransUnion and Experian, and I can go on there and be able to see both scores, and they're pretty accurate. And the reason I know this is because when I was buying a house, I submitted my stuff, and it wasn't that off from what Credit Karma was showing me. It was actually higher than that, but it kind of shows you like where you're at. It's pretty accurate. So Credit Karma is a good way to go ahead and just check your credit scores. You should always check them regularly, see what's working, see what's not working, see if you don't pay if you don't pay it off, like how is it affecting you and all that stuff. And I think that's gonna help you out. And I guess it's really the last thing is use your credit cards for all payments that apply. So this is something that I've always done. Is that I pay everything that I'm paying, except for like mortgage. You can't pay mortgage like debt with debt, but anything like my phone bill, my utility, anything that I'm shopping, if it's not at one of these stores that require a debit card, I'm using my credit card because it's pretty much the same amount that I would pay with my debit card and my credit card, but I'm getting points back. I'm getting cash backs. Like for example, my Discover card has certain things like January to March, I may get like 5% back on certain things. I think now in July it's gas and not restaurants, something else, but I'm getting 5% back whenever I use it on there. So if I was putting gas with my debit card, now I would just use my credit card and then I would be getting 5% back up to a certain amount. I think if you spend $1,500 within 3 months, they give you 5%, which is like $75. For me, I always look at that as a win because if I use my debit card, I would still spend it anyway. Like I was still gonna charge that card, but now I'm getting some money back. And then that's a whole another topic that I would have to get in another video, is how to, maximize your credit cards, because there are ways you can actually maximize your credit cards and you get cash backs and you get points. And, if you're flying, depending on what you do the most, you can get cash back or perks in those areas. And that's something I do. I maximize those things. I don't pay any interest on any of my cards because I always pay them off, or actually that's it. There's no other way. I always just pay them off every month. Unless I have a new credit card and I have no interest for like 15 months. So that's another thing, is that credit cards, when you get them, especially if it's not your first one. If you're gonna get another one, go for ones that have perks and some that also allow you to have no interest for like 15 months as long as you can. So those you can keep the money recurring. Like say if I have $10,000 worth of credit and I want to use 5,000 and I know I'm not going to pay it off. So I would just use those if it's an investment. I wouldn't just swipe like, if I'm like, it has to make sense why I am swiping $5,000. Like if I know I'm going to pay it back, it's just going to take me 3 months. I will use that knowing that I'm not going to pay any interest on it. So avoid paying interest to credit cards. Do whatever you got to do. If you got to get a second job to pay it off, do that. But don't get in the habit of paying interest because it catches up and it can be more. It can cost you more to borrow from credit cards or turn out something that was supposed to be a blessing, something that was supposed to help you start a business or something like that can actually get you into a lot of trouble. So hopefully the tips that I've given you have helped you or will help you as you start your journey to building your credit. And if you have any questions, do reach out to me. If I talked super fast, just watch the video one more time. But until next time, I am out. Anation is out. Peace.